Welcome to Georgia Stories 2. I'm Colin Sedor. Georgia became a colony in 1733, and while that may seem like eons ago, it's really not. People native to this land had been here for thousands of years before that. They survived in the wild, adapted to Mother Nature, and developed over time a sophisticated society whose triumphs still benefit us today. Their story is the story of the first Georgians. People have been on the move since the beginning of time. Like these new U.S. citizens from Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, they leave their homes searching for more freedom, more money, more opportunity. And so it was with the first Americans. During the Ice Age, so much ocean water was frozen into glaciers that sea levels dropped, exposing a land bridge between Asia and the New World. Archaeologists who study ancient people believe it was across this land bridge that the first human beings came to America, lured by the promise of more food.
Because people weren't the only thing crossing the land bridge. Animals crossed too, things like mastodon and mammoth and bison. Giant creatures that lived in the same time that these people did. And so they just followed their source of meat.
They hunted big game that could provide enough meat to feed a family for a month. When food was gone in one area, they moved on. Warm weather pulled some to the southeast and to Georgia, where they found new food sources. The native people began to hunt small animals, to fish, to gather nuts and berries. And in time, they made an amazing discovery. They didn't have to chase their food, they could grow it. They learned how to grow squash, beans, and corn, but the most valuable of these they called maize, we call corn.
Corn is a really valuable food product, and mainly because it produces, for the amount of labor you put into it, it produces lots and lots of calories. In other words, for a tremendous amount of labor involved in planting and tending the fields, you get a lot of food, and that food is easily storable.
The native people became master farmers, and it changed their lives. Before, they moved from place to place. Now they could settle down. Before, they traveled in small groups. Now they lived in large villages. Before, they worried about their next meal. Now they had plenty to eat. No wonder the Indians considered corn a gift from God. Even today, their biggest festival celebrates the first harvest of the summer. The green corn ceremony is days and nights filled with fasting and feasting, song and dance.
Like with our green corn, the dances that we would do, they would be symbolic in giving thanks for that new corn that is coming. That's why we called it green corn, is because it was new corn. And it being new. And we would do this dance in order so that next year, the following year, that our crops would do good.
Diamond Brown is Cherokee. He likes to come to the top of Georgia's Stone Mountain, where his ancestors would have come long ago to pray to the Creator. He and his daughters perform native dances. The jingle dance, the fancy shawl dance, the warrior's dance. But these are not the green corn dances. Those dances are a form of prayer considered to be so sacred that few outsiders have ever seen them. Diamond Brown teaches his girls the ancient ways, but he feels those customs must stay among his people.
We have a hard time in keeping our culture alive and keeping our traditions alive. And what happens is when we share these things, the reason why that the outsiders, I would say, are not invited is because we need to hang on to our own cultures. We need to keep that alive among our own people.
Corn was like gold to the early Indians. It allowed them to live together in big, permanent villages. And when you stay in one place for generations, everything changes. People became very sophisticated. They developed elaborate religious ceremonies, beautiful artwork. And corn gave village leaders power and status like never before, because someone had to settle disputes, someone had to divide the community corn, and someone had to organize all the labor. That someone was the chief.
Can you imagine on some of the days here at Etowah where there were big ceremonies being held, a group of very powerful chiefs walking up these steps, all dressed in feathers and painted? It must have been something to see, don't you think?
Nearly 1,000 years ago, the Etowah Indian mounds near Cartersville were just such a great chiefdom. Archaeologists believe these spectacular mounds started out as small platforms built by hand for the chief's family to live on. When the chief died, it was customary to tear down his house, add another layer of dirt, and build a new house for the new chief right on top.
The Indian mound at Etowah tells an archaeologist that somebody was politically powerful enough to organize and command a whole bunch of people to get together, put baskets on their backs, fill them with dirt, walk them up to the top of the mound and dump it and create this giant platform. And then the chief would then live on top of that and lord it over everybody else. So a mound to an archaeologist equals political power.
Just think about it. Think about what we would have to eat today if it were not for the Indians. There would be no cornbread for starters. In fact, on that vegetable plate, no corn, no beans, and no squash. So the next time you sit down to a home-cooked Southern meal, give thanks for the nomads who crossed that land bridge more than 10,000 years ago.
Early southeastern Indians prepared corn 42 different ways: roasted, stewed, and even popped into popcorn.